Welcome, everybody. We are very close to an election that will serve as an inflection point of such massive significance that I want to avoid the hyperbole, but struggle without using seemingly hyperbolic language to actually explain how high the stakes are this November. And the contrast in directions couldn't be more clear than on any random day, looking at what we're getting from either the Biden White House or the Harris-Walz campaign, and in contrast to that, seeing what we're getting from the Trump-Vance campaign. Earlier this week, we looked at, here's the speech Tim Walz gave, and on the same day, here's the speech Trump gave or Vance gave. And the contrast, both superficially and on a deeper level, couldn't be more clear. We're going to do something similar today. Yesterday, Joe Biden appeared on The View. And yesterday, Donald Trump delivered another so-called economic policy speech. Put aside for a second that just because you call it a policy speech doesn't make it so if you just rant and rave and glitch. But we'll get to that in a moment. The contrast between these two men and their visions, as well as Kamala Harris's vision as a continuation of the Biden presidency, are so different not only on policy, but also on the intangibles. Here is Joe Biden on The View yesterday, humbly joking about his age and recognizing that he knows and everybody else knows he's making the right decision by saying, I did 4 years and now it's time for someone else. Take a listen to this.
President, it was only 2 months ago that you decided to step aside from seeking re-election, putting your country first above any personal ambition and passing the torch to the vice. It's like having one of the Beatles at the table. And you passed the torch to Vice President Kamala Harris. What have these past 2 months felt like, and are you at peace with your decision?
Well, I am at peace with my decision. Look, when I ran this last term, I said that saw myself as a transition president.
Yeah.
Transitioning to a new generation of leadership. Now, I know I only look 40, but I'm 180 years old. I've been around forever. And but what happened was we were having so much success in getting things done that people thought we couldn't get done.
Right.
I found myself having used more time than I would have ordinarily to, pass that torch. But working with Kamala, she is bright, she is tough, she's honorable. And the thing I like about her, and one thing we share in common, is that we have an optimistic view of the future here.
Yeah,
I mean, there's nothing we can't do. I mean, there really isn't. Anyway, but that's what happened. And so finally, I decided that it was better. And I said I meant what I said. It was the greatest honor in the world sitting behind the Resolute desk as President of the United States, but I loved it, but it sounds corny, but I love my country more.
That's right. That's such an incredible...
What's so remarkable about this isn't that this is necessarily that remarkable, but the contrast with Donald Trump. If you want someone who's going to tell you, I know more than everybody, I can figure everything out by myself, only I can solve these problems, no matter what's going on with me, I am obviously fit to do this and to do it for as long as I want to do it, that's Trump. The vision from Biden is, hey, you know what? I kind of got carried away. I was thinking of myself as transitional. I was doing stuff. I thought I'd keep going. And, it was shown to him, as he said, if it becomes known to me that I am not likely to win or that there's someone better suited, then I will step aside. And he did. And this isn't about what you think the top tax rate should be. This isn't about, whether school lunch should be free for kids at the point of sale or whatever, right? This is beyond that. And there's just no comparison. There's no comparison between Trump and Biden. Couple other clips from this that I want to look at. Let's take a listen to this.
Thank you to you as well, because, you know, one of the things you promised when you came in, you said you were going to have an administration that looked like America.
Yeah. Yes.
And with so many other things, you delivered. You gave us a very diverse cabinet. You gave us the first black woman in the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
You gave us Kamala Harris, the first woman vice president. You gave us Becerra, Cardona, Mayorkas,
Linda
Guzman, all the people, you know, so thank you for that. And why, so like, in case people don't know, you're like a straight white guy, so why was representation so important to you?
Known for liking chocolate chip ice cream and Ray-Ban sunglasses. That's the hell.
Why was representation so important to you?
Well, look, you know, I think people need, our kids need to have aspirations. When they look and they see a woman president, they look and they see a Supreme Court justice, they look and they see the leaders being women, all those young girls who have aspirations go, God, I know it's going to sound corny, but, you know, when I remember when we moved from Scranton, Pennsylvania, which was an Irish Catholic neighborhood I lived in. It was not poor, but it was a middle-class neighborhood. We moved down to Delaware when coal died, and my dad didn't work in the mines, but he had lived in Delaware before, until he was a junior in high school. We moved back to Claymont, Delaware, and I moved into a community that didn't have many Catholics, and in the neighborhood we moved into. And I remember things like one of my friends, his sister, who was a lovely girl, asked me to go to her 9th day dance, and I didn't have any interest, but I said yes. And I remember him coming over and saying, Mom says she can't go because you're a Catholic. And I can remember when John Kennedy got elected president.
Oh, yes.
I know it sounds corny
First
now,
Catholic president.
but it meant something. I wasn't.
You know, imagine Trump being asked a similar question. Hey, you know, I mean, you have some diversity in your cabinet. Why? Why is that important? For Trump, everything's transactional, right? Why was representation important in your cabinet? Well, I wanted the votes from the blacks. Where's my African American? And, you know, these Jews. And there is a wholeheartedly genuine nature to, hey, when you see people that mirror your identity doing things, it inspires you in a way that, listen, I don't pick candidates based on identity, but I must recognize that seeing the first woman president, if indeed Kamala Harris wins, sends a really important message to so many who would look at who's been president and say, hey, half the country is women and we've never had a female president. How could that be? Doesn't really make a lot of sense. All right, one final clip from this, and here is Joe Biden sort of, well, I'll just play it for you.
Because Trump started his political campaign by calling Mexicans rapists. Remember that?
I sure do.
He still jokes about Paul Pelosi nearly being beaten to death. He thinks that's funny. Let's see what else. He hinted that the Second Amendment people could do something against Hillary Clinton. And he's calling for a televised military tribunal for Liz Cheney. These are his past statements and ideas. He's blamed now, but now he's blaming rhetoric from you that you inspired these 2 assassination attempts. After all of the calls for violence, you know, take them out, all the rest of it, you know what it is. Don't you think that that is just unbelievable? And what do you say to that?
Well, I think he is the most unusual president. No. Look, when I ran, I said I was running. One of the first major speeches I made was for Independence Hall about democracy. That democracy was at stake.
And to restore the soul of this country.
Yes.
The soul.
I ran for 3 reasons. I said I wanted to restore the soul of the country, meaning in a sense of decency and honor.
Yep.
Secondly, I wanted to make the middle class grow, because when it grows, everybody does well. And thirdly, I wanted to bring the country back together. And I was told we couldn't do any of those things. But we've gotten a lot of them done. And look, Trump is...
Careful.
There's not a lot of social redeeming value there.
No, you think? Right.
Listen, if someone doesn't respect democracy and you point that out and you're told you are the one causing the problem, you are the one inciting violence, something has gone very, very backwards. So as we get to these sort of final appearances of Joe Biden's presidency and his political career, I'm thinking a lot about the contrast and what that means as we think about November. Now let's look at a total contrast. Donald Trump spoke in Mint Hill, North Carolina yesterday. It was billed once again as an economic policy speech. What we find out very quickly with Trump is just because you call it an economic policy speech, it doesn't make it one, especially if you rant, rave, glitch, sweat, and look swollen and orange, which is what Donald Trump did. Here's Trump talking about Marxism, meant to be an economic speech, while having visibly no idea what Marxism is.
Harris, you're fired. Get out. You're fired. You did a lousy job as vice president. Look, Joe is the worst president in the history of our country. Jimmy Carter is the happiest man because the Carter administration, by comparison, was totally brilliant. And Kamala is considered, and if you go back 7 weeks, was considered the worst vice president in the history of our country. Now she wants to be president. We can't let it happen. And she's a Marxist. We're not ready for a Marxist president, and we never will be.
I would love it if someone asked Donald Trump, what is Marxism? And please list a couple of Marxist policies that Kamala Harris has proposed. Trump, as usual, continuing the politics of grievance, asking about Chris Wallace.
Everything else, and we're not going to let that happen. Joe got all that money for China. You know, China paid him a lot of money.
A lot.
So did Ukraine. So did Russia. They got a lot of money. Remember when I said during the debate, when Chris Wallace was the host, he did not so. How's Chris Wallace doing lately? Not too good, right? He's not doing too good. I said, why did the mayor of Russia's wife pay you?
By the way, I love how Trump says mare, like we're talking about a female horse. That one I will never get. Trump continuing to fixate, including during this very important economic policy speech, about whether Kamala Harris worked at McDonald's, which Trump insists she did not, despite the fact that we really have no reason to doubt it.
Even something like she worked very long and hard hours over French fries at McDonald's. She never worked at McDonald's. It was a fake story. It was a fake story. The press now refuses to write it because it's so, there's a very simple one. She said she worked at McDonald's and she didn't. Not highly sophisticated, not complicated. It was a lie. She never worked at McDonald's over the hot French fries. I think I'm going to a McDonald's in 2 weeks, actually, and I'm going to work the French fries because I will have worked longer and harder at McDonald's than she did.
Trump really obsessed with the phrase long and hard. I don't know why. That's been a theme of his speech now for several years. But why is he obsessed with Kamala Harris working at McDonald's? Now, if you need any proof that this speech was off the rails, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, bonkos, as we might call it, both Fox News and Newsmax cut away. Here is Fox News saying, we can't do any more of this.
I was a big buyer. I bought a lot of things here.
A lot.
That there was no place for furniture in particular, like North Carolina. You were the furniture capital of the world, but now so much of that business has been stolen from you and it's made in China and other places. And by the way, it's not as good. The quality is nowhere near. You made furniture. You bought a chair. It was good for 30 years. You buy some of these chairs that they sell you now, they break after about 2 months. People are laying
and Trump's furniture rant gets to be too much, and here we get the cutaway.
The floor, suing you for giving a bench. Then on top of it all, our government keeps them out. Then on top of it all, you get sued because they fell out of a chair at a hotel. Boy, oh boy, you made the best product. You made the best furniture. After the twin betrayals of NAFTA, which I ended, and China's entry into the WTO, World Trade, North Carolina lost over 300,000 manufacturing jobs quickly. including 60% of its furniture manufacturing jobs, and that number was going up until I came along.
All right,
No
well, we're
one
going to
in
continue to
Washington-
watch this. We carried this economic speech in its entirety for almost an hour and a half yesterday. We're told that the rest of this speech will very much echo what we heard yesterday.
Hey, listen, we were tortured with 90 minutes of this insanity yesterday. We can't do it again. And Trump's so unhinged in Mint Hill, North Carolina, that even Newsmax cut away. Newsmax makes Fox News seem sane.
You need the right messenger. She didn't support domestic manufacturing. She killed 24,000 U.S. manufacturing jobs. In the last month alone, we lost 24,000 jobs. You know, there is a reason for the interest rate cut from the Fed. Big part of that reason is that our economy is doing really, really badly. Kamala goes to work every day in the White House. Families are suffering now. So if she has a plan, she should stop grandstanding and do it. Just do it. You have a few months left. Do it. Do it. You have plans for the border? Do it now. You know, you don't need anything at the border. All you need is the president of the United States to say the border is closed. I didn't have anything. I had.
All right. As we predicted, Donald Trump mentioning the assassination attempts and the threats in his life, also, of course, talking about manufacturing and the importance of returning those jobs back to this country and his plan.
So, of course, sane washing the speech, but ultimately they dropped like flies. Trump's speeches are so whacked that even right-wing media sees them and goes, this isn't helping us, and it's certainly not helping Trump. We are out of here. All right, I do want to talk about polling. I know that there are people in the audience who are like, David, enough with the polling. I do think we're in the final 5 weeks, okay? This will all be over soon. We're not going to talk about polling for a very long time, I promise you. But this is critical. This is an inflection point. Everything really comes down to this. And I do think it makes sense to just keep you abreast of what is going on polling wise. So first and foremost, we have our first national poll in which Kamala Harris is leading by 7. Now, there are many scenarios in which Kamala Harris wins the national popular vote by 2, but loses electorally. I don't think that if Kamala Harris wins the popular vote by 7, there is any realistic path to victory for Trump. I also don't think that one poll saying she's leading by 7 means she's actually going to win by 7. But we have a new Reuters Ipsos poll, a very good poll, finding Harris at 46.6 and Trump at 40.4, so 6.2. And then that rounds to 47.40, a 7-point gap, bigger than the previous 5-point gap. But what about the swing states, which is what it will all come down to? I will update you there. Nationally, on average, it is Harris plus 2.1. In Arizona, Trump building a lead. There is no doubt Trump's lead is growing in Arizona, where he is now leading. That would be a reversal from 2020. In Nevada, Kamala Harris still holding a less than 0.5 percentage point lead. In Wisconsin, Kamala Harris sitting right at a 1-point lead. In Michigan, Kamala Harris at 1.8 points ahead of Trump. Pennsylvania could all come down to Pennsylvania. Kamala Harris leading, but by 0.5 point. North Carolina, Trump holding on, but barely leading by 0.7 point. And finally, Trump building a lead in Georgia, now leading by 2.1. So maybe we can just bottom line it the following way. Here is a map of the 2020 election results with the 2024 electoral vote assignments. Understand that the electoral vote distribution has shifted slightly since 2020. So this is the states that each candidate won in 2020, but the number of electoral votes it would entitle them to today. Right now, Trump is winning Georgia and Trump is winning Arizona. If I flip both of those states to Trump, Kamala Harris still wins, but with only 276 electoral votes. At this point, if we get to this situation, anything but Nevada clinches it for Trump. You see that if Trump were to take Nevada in addition to Arizona and Georgia, Kamala Harris still gets the 270 she needs. But if Trump gets Pennsylvania in this scenario, he wins. If he gets Michigan, he wins. If he gets Wisconsin, he wins. And that's really the only path that would be remaining for Donald Trump. So what does this all mean? it still means the most likely outcome is Harris wins the popular vote, but a super close race when it comes to the Electoral College. And I want to address one other thing. I'm hearing from some people saying, David, you're not optimistic enough about this. You're acting like it's really close, but Trump's got no shot. I want to be crystal clear with the audience. Based on the swing state polling, this election will be closer than 2016 and 2020. I'm just the messenger, okay? All of these comments about David's calculating what he says in order to encourage people to believe X instead of Y so that they take action Z instead of T. No. Right now, if we consider the swing state polling and apply that to the electoral map, this would be the closest of the last 3 presidential elections. Actually, it'd be closer than 2012. This would end up being the closest election in a very long time. Let me put it that way. So anybody saying, David, you're overreacting, Kamala's fine, that's the most likely outcome. According to the swing state polling, Trump is going to come closer than he came in 2020 to the presidency based on everything we are seeing right now. Let's take a break. What a show we have for you today. Don't forget that the best way to support the David Pakman Show is by becoming a member, which gives you access to the daily bonus show, the regular show with no commercials. You also get access to our entire archive of every episode dating back a really long time and plenty of other awesome membership perks. Go to joinpakman.com, joinpakman.com. The David Pakman Show is an audience-supported, independent, progressive program. This means that rather than some corporate overarching infrastructure, including various levels of editors and producers telling me what I can talk about and what I can't talk about and what I should say and which words I should use and what colors I should wear and how I should shave my facial hair, which nobody's telling me. I just decide. It's really that simple. And if you don't like it, great. If you do, I wonder whether you like it enough to say, I'm going to get a membership at joinpakman.com and support this program, particularly at this critical time for the United States, and I would argue even globally. We estimate about 0.5% of our audience supports us directly through something like membership. If we could go from 0.5% to 1%, all other revenue sources lose their grip on us, and we become, in a sense, immune, almost like a vaccine against the various vagaries of these algorithms, which have at different points in time taken all revenue. We've lost all revenue on YouTube at different points. Facebook, TikTok, Snapchats, they've all gone to zero at some point. We can do very little about it. And if we can grow our support from 0.5% to 1%, it stops mattering, which is an incredible thing. So I invite you to sign up at joinpakman.com, get the full membership experience, read about the benefits as well. A number of you sent me a video clip of Roseanne Barr at one of Tucker Carlson's events that he's doing in person. And she's screaming like a lunatic. Yes, that's true. And I want to talk a little bit about these Tucker Carlson events because it's so hard to have these conversations without seeming as though you are kind of putting people down, but we might just have to put people down. I don't know. There is something happening culturally that is represented in these events, which I want to discuss. So first and foremost, here's Roseanne at Tucker Carlson's, I believe this is in Fort Worth, Texas. Tucker's doing an in-person tour. Different people join him at different events. He had Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at one, Russell Brand. I don't even know the full list. At this event, he had Roseanne Barr. Here she is screaming. Now, note if you're watching, when the camera pans, it looks like it's mostly empty, but I don't want to just go, oh, there's no people, because I looked and I saw video from other moments at this event, and it did look a lot more full. So I don't know if people bailed when Roseanne was there or if this was early or late. I don't know. When the camera pans, it looks empty, but Roseanne is screaming like a crazy person.
They overthrew the government of our country, and they haven't even answered for it.
And so here when it pans, it does look like basically all but the floor seats are almost completely empty. But I don't know. I don't even care about that. OK, these events are getting people to go to them. And this entire Tucker Carlson tour has become kind of a flashpoint for the cultural low of the United States of America. There's like a real cultural regression that's taking place here. And, you know, this is a stadium, whether it's a full stadium or whether it's an empty stadium. I guess it depends on the camera angle, you know, the exposure settings and what time of whether this is the beginning or the end of the event. But they're certainly partially filling stadiums. And I believe that there is a pseudo-intellectual sort of class that has convinced itself that they are thinking people. I'm going to give you an example. The people that buy Bill O'Reilly's, quote, history books and think that they are reading rigorous history. We've talked about the anti-intellectual movement. And I've also talked about how the pseudo-intellectual movement can actually be more dangerous. And I think you see this if you go to Trump rallies. There's lots of people that get interviewed at Trump rallies. They think that they are informed. There are people who are just straight up clueless. They're like, listen, you know, we've done interviews. I'm a simple country boy and I'm voting Trump, right? And it's just like, I just like the guy. I don't know. I just like him. I don't like Hillary. I don't like Joe Biden. I don't like Kamala. Fine. But there's a second group of people who believe they are informed. And they are the sorts of folks that go to hear Roseanne Barr screaming like a crazy person with Tucker Carlson laughing. And they think, hey, I'm participating in this cultural discussion. I'm in the milieu. I'm a deep thinker. These are deep thinkers, etc. And similarly, it's like the people who read the Bill O'Reilly history books or whatever. And to some degree, I think you can argue that it's more dangerous. It's more dangerous in a way. What's that phrase? A little knowledge can be a dangerous thing or something like that. I want to play another clip. This is from when Russell Brand participated in a Tucker Carlson event. And just stick with it because he gets down on his knees and he starts praying. Okay.
Forgiving. For who was the most radical being that we have ever known? Who loved more than anyone else? Who forgave more than anyone else? Who gave themselves that we might live? I can't see in secularism any solution. I can't see in politics anything other than the green shoots of possible change in the alliances that we've touched upon. But in our Lord and Savior, I can see the hope and redemption that was promised us. And that will be my path. So I've never asked this before. We haven't talked about this, and I mean this in the most open possible way. Not everyone's going to share your beliefs or my beliefs, but would you close in prayer? Oh, yeah, all right. I call on the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, our heavenly Savior. Lord, humbly in this great congregation in Phoenix, Arizona, with my host, Tucker Carlson, in deference to him, but in ultimate deference to you, our Lord and Savior, to whom we are all your younger siblings and your children. I pray in your name that the forthcoming election be an opportunity for unity for America.
All right, I think you get the point. So the cultural concern I'm bringing up is that, you know, maybe to some, the Trump rally is overtly the signifier of this kind of low rent, very base aspect of right wing culture right now. And there are those who see Russell Brand and Tucker or, you know, Roseanne screaming like a lunatic and say, this is where the thinking is happening. And it's pointing to a really sad state of affairs for the United States. I think that's where I'll leave it. It's sad at the end of the day. We spoke earlier this week about Donald Trump's rally in Indiana, Pennsylvania. Now, on the way to that rally, Donald Trump stopped at Sprankle's Market in Pennsylvania, where he gave $100 for groceries to a woman, maybe a campaign finance violation, bought popcorn for his staffer, Walt Nauda. And it's all just really weird. I want to play some of this for you because this is one of those kind of calculated campaign photo ops, which everybody does. Democrats and Republicans do them. But there's something weird about how Trump wanders around the grocery store and just doesn't really seem to care what people are saying, nor even to necessarily understand it. Let me just play a little bit of this, and not all the audio is perfect, but it'll give you a sense of this.
My nan, President Trump, my nan came in. Hey, President Trump, I want to introduce you to my nan. Carrie Welsh. Yeah. You say the nan? My nan, my grandma. My grandma, yeah. She came in.
Trump didn't understand what Nana meant, and the guy had to explain, my Nana, my grandma.
She came into town today. She came into town today.
Okay, come on. Do you have a camera?
I do. See one? Perfect.
You got a good boy there, right?
Yeah, I see you all the time and on TV. I know you're wonderful, and you keep.
He's doing a good job, huh?
He is. I have
Beautiful grandma.
She is. I mean, she's, yeah.
Maybe your
I've
mother,
always,
but
people always thought she was my mom, you know?
have a good time.
All right, so you can see it's all kind of weird. At one point, Trump hands up what I guess is $100 bill to a woman, and a number of lawyers have said this is a campaign finance violation. In other words, this is overtly a campaign event, and Trump's handing cash to voters.
Take the rest of it. Here, it's going to go down a little bit. It just went down $100.
Thank you so much.
We'll do that for you from the White House, all right?
Thank you.
All right, bye. Nice seeing you, everybody.
God bless you.
Beautiful. They're your kids?
Yeah, they are. 3 boys.
Perfecto. Perfecto.
The universal language for Trump, of course, money. That's how it is. Trump then kind of wandering around and grabbing a big bag of popcorn.
Oh, look, I got to get some. Look at that stuff. This is what I want. Just have it. We got to get it.
My mom just got a bag of that, actually.
Is it good stuff? Good?
She says it's the best.
Is that the best?
She says it's the
If it
best.
is, I'll be in Washington, D.C., hopefully in the Oval Office. I'll send for popcorn. Okay?
He'll send for bopcorn. I like that. You kind of get the feeling that Trump maybe has never been to a grocery store, hilariously enough. There was a very interesting moment that actually could have really been interesting, which is Trump asks, how do you as an independent grocery store compete with the big stores? This is a really good question. It devolves into Trump instantly being bored and looking around, and the guy just kind of talking about, I guess, inflation.
The best crew in the world. We got
So
the best
how do you
crew.
do against the big stores? How do you do?
You know, I'm very proud because every year we've been up, except for the last
Trump is already bored.
3 years because of this inflation. It's exactly what you said. The prices are up, but our sales are down. So we've had to get super creative in how we use our space to try to.
Prices go up and yet your sales are down.
Yeah. So it's been brutal just to try to. Thankfully, I have a great crew, a great
Trump's like, can I somehow blame Kamala Harris for that?
staff, my family. We work
How long
together.
has this been open?
We've been in business 25 years.
Wow.
We bought it. This store where you're standing there has been a grocery store since 1929.
Wow, that's great. That's beautiful.
All right. Why does this have a kind of uncanny valley feel to it? And then finally, Donald Trump, before wrapping at the grocery store, just rants about Kamala Harris and Oprah.
Based on the fact that this woman is not capable. She was on Oprah, and she couldn't answer the most basic question. We've gone through 4 years of that. We're not going to go through another 4 years of that. She couldn't answer any questions that were. Nobody knew what she was even talking about, and she didn't know what she was talking about. We had 4 years of that. Our country has gone to hell. Inflation, crime. Look at the crime number.
You know, I've been covering presidential politics long enough to remember when Mitt Romney grabbed a shopping cart at a grocery store, filled it with seltzer and yogurt. That was it. Seltzer and yogurt. Went and paid and then loaded it into his car. And we said, oh, this feels so staged and contrived. And it's not really believable that Mitt Romney, worth $250 million, is doing this and blah, 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 blah. That feels genuine and authentic compared to Donald Trump's confused and quite frankly, chaotically manic presence in the grocery store. The question I have for you is, does this help Trump secure even a single additional vote? Or do these little photo ops actually do more harm than good for Trump? Let me know. Email me info@davidpakman.com. If you value what we do at The David Pakman Show, remember to support us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show, where you can get access to behind the scenes videos, the daily bonus show, the commercial-free daily show. You can support the show for as little as $2 a month. Check it out at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. If we weren't living through this exact moment in American politics, I think a lot of what's going on would seem completely unbelievable if someone pulled us aside and said, hey, here's what's going to be happening in 2024. Consider the situation currently afflicting the Republican Party. Their North Carolina gubernatorial candidate got caught saying online that he's a black Nazi and admitting to peeping in the girl's shower in a locker room and all of this wacky stuff. Trump stepping away from him, the Republican Party stepping away from him. Republicans have completely abandoned policy. Trump had one of the worst debate performances in American history. You would think this would be crunch time for how can we connect with the American people? What can we do over the next 40 something days, something like that, such that we can make the case that our candidates, rather than Kamala Harris and the Democrats down ballot, have the right and best vision for the country. That's what you would think they would be doing. But instead, Donald Trump is offering his followers a $100 coin. Yeah, featuring his face. So there's two parts to this. How does Trump think this is a good idea? Well, that's easy. Trump thinks anything from which he can make money is a good idea. Fine. But how is it that other Republicans say nothing about this obvious distracting grift? Well, because Trump could be the next president and they don't want to cross him because we know Trump holds grudges like a little kid. Listen to Trump promoting this total scam to his followers.
Hello, everyone. I have something incredible to share today. We are announcing the launch of Trump coins, a true symbol of American greatness. Trump coins are designed by me and minted right here in the USA.
Yeah, Trump designed the coin.
This beautiful limited edition coin commemorates our movement, our fight for freedom, prosperity, and putting America first. We always put America first.
Something about, Trump always uses a prompter. Something about how he reads these off of the prompter has an extra grifty and contrived feel.
It's more than just a collector's item. It's a testament to the resilience and strength of the American people, our
right, lest anyone think it's merely a collector's item.
American patriots that we love so much. This coin is composed of 99.9% pure silver with a beautiful proof finish, and it's really something very special. Each coin comes with a certificate of authenticity with my signature to ensure you have purchased a real Trump coin. I've seen a lot of coins out there using my very beautiful face. I'm a very beautiful guy, I'm only kidding. But they are not the official coin. RealTrumpCoins.com is the only place to get an official Trump coin. This is a limited edition product, so be sure to follow our page at RealTrumpCoins to stay updated and
lest anyone be tricked into accepting a fake Trump coin. Now, of course, this is a grift. The coin, let's assume, when you go to the page, in fact, let me go to it, Real Trump Coins. When you go to the Real Trump Coins page, it, the website is down right now. I can't even access it. In any case, let's assume for a second that this is 0.999 silver and that the coin has an ounce of silver, just for a second. An ounce of silver is worth about $31 right now. So what you have to believe or be willing to accept if you want one of these coins versus just like I have just silver ounce coins, right? what I paid for them is what silver cost at the time, plus, some tiny minting fee, or, you're within a couple percent of just the spot market value of silver. I don't have them as an investment. I've had them for 20 years because I thought at the time it makes sense to invest in physical silver. Then I was like, what am I doing? These things are super heavy. It doesn't make any sense. But the whole point is here, if what you're trying to do is invest in the silver, the $100 Trump coin is not a good investment because the value of silver would have to more than triple for this to make sense. If you're doing it because you love the unique nature of Trump's face on a coin, what you're essentially acknowledging implicitly is you're willing to pay $69. In other words, it's $31 for the silver. You're willing to pay an additional $69 for a tchotchke with Trump's face on it that has zero actual value beyond the $31 of silver. So I don't know which of those two options it is for most of these people, or they have no idea that there's not $100 worth of silver in the thing. He is selling, I don't know if he's selling hundreds of these or thousands of them, but it is an attempt to just wring every last dollar from the people he's been grifting for 8-9 years at this point. And the coins are sold as usual. It's like Trump's licensing his image. The coins are sold by another company based in Delaware that didn't exist 3 months ago. It was created 3 months ago. And they are licensing Trump's likeness. So it's one of these like, hey, promote this thing. We'll give you a cut of every coin sold. And people are falling for it. At a certain point, will a fool and their money part ways? If so, then I guess we don't really need a nanny state to protect people from Trump's own grift. Hey, earlier this week, we looked at some moments from an interview that Cheryl Atkinson did on Full Measure with Donald Trump. There are a couple of other moments I want to look at with you because they are so bizarre and wacky. At a certain point during the interview, Cheryl asked Trump about vaccines. And she framed it as, there's lots of concerns about vaccines. There are people who believe they were approved too quickly, whatever. Trump is trying to thread the needle here where he wants credit and he takes credit for getting the vaccines delivered and produced quickly and approved. But he seems to recognize he can't brag about it, and he doesn't brag about it because so many of his followers hate the vaccines. It's Trump acknowledging that he lost control of the monster he created.
Do you think that maybe they were approved too fast? And in hindsight, based on what we know now, what would you have done differently?
Well, I think they're doing studies on the vaccines, and we're going to find out, and it'll come out one way or the other. But I really had a mandate to get vaccines done, and I got them done very quickly in record time. The Democrats love it. The Democrats love it, and
all right, the Democrats love the vaccine. Okay.
Republicans don't. It's very interesting.
The Republicans don't.
The vaccines, they love it. I have a friend of mine who said to me, why don't you talk about the vaccine, what you did with the vaccine? He's a Democrat, but I'm sure he voted for me. He said, what you did was the most incredible thing that any president has ever done. You've saved hundreds of millions of lives all over the world. And this was just recently, very smart guy. He said, I don't understand why you don't talk about it. And I don't talk about it. But if you go to Pfizer, if you go to some of these companies, they have charts and they have all sorts of statistics. And
they have charts.
I say, why don't you release those statistics? Let people know. But I don't talk about it. I can say this, the Democrats would love to claim it. The Republicans don't want to claim it.
So Trump is acknowledging here, I don't talk about it because my followers don't like it. In fact, there were rallies back in, I guess it must have been the 2022 midterm cycle, where Trump would go out to campaign for the people he was supporting. And he would talk about the vaccines and the crowd would boo. So zip, Trump does not talk about the vaccines anymore. Notice that in his entire 2024 campaign, he's not talking about vaccines at any rally. And this was, according to him, one of his greatest accomplishments. This is a reminder of two different things. Number one, yes, as I said, the monster Trump created, he's lost control of. In fact, you know, when we talk about they tried to kill Trump, they being former Trump voters, former Republicans, etc., it seems as though they went beyond where Trump even is politically. And that's what has upset them about Trump. So that's number one, lost control of the monster he created. Secondly, it's a reminder that Trump doesn't stand for anything objective. He doesn't have any real values. He was pro-choice his whole life. All of a sudden, he's running as a Republican. He's got to come up with a story about being against abortion. So he came up with one. Trump's not been religious his whole life, but all of a sudden he's running as a Republican. So now the Bible is his second favorite book alongside his own book. And he's deeply spiritual and blah, 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 blah. You get the whole thing. He stands for nothing. And similarly with the vaccines, if his audience likes it, he's going to talk about the vaccines and insist that they're great. But all of a sudden, if it's disadvantageous to him to be talking about vaccines, it doesn't matter if he, quote, really believes the vaccines are good. He's kind of hemming and hawing about it. He says, well, the studies are going to come out. It's being looked at. If his audience doesn't like the vaccines, he'll never mention the vaccines again, even if he had believed that it was actually a good thing. He stands for nothing. He's completely and totally hollow. From the same interview, one more clip, the topic of these mass deportations and migrant camps came up. Here's what Trump had to say.
You've talked about a mass deportation program. How is that practically possible? Because a lot of the millions of people have had children here who are American citizens. And don't you think the first time there is an image on television of a family tearfully being told to board a bus, that whole program would end?
That's right. If you take a young woman with two beautiful children and you put her on a bus and it ends up on the front page of every newspaper, it makes it a lot harder.
So yes to mass deportation, even of women and children.
So we're going to look at it very closely. The way you phrase it is exactly right. You put one wrong person onto a bus or onto an airplane, and your radical left lunatics will try and make it sound like the worst thing that's ever happened.
Notice what's missing from Trump's explanation. She's asking a good question, which is, are you going to mass round up, put in camps, and then deport in a militarized way women and children? And Trump doesn't say, you know what? We're not going to do that because we've decided and we know that the women and children pose no threat. No, he doesn't say, if you're here illegally, you've got to go. It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a child. He doesn't stand on principle. He says, no, yeah, I mean, they're gonna get after us if we deport the wrong person, or if the images of women and children being manhandled by the military as part of the deportation, if that gets on TV, it would be bad and Democrats will complain. It's all merely a political calculation. On the other hand, we are able to make much more definitive claims. Hey, you know what? If you came here when you were not legally an adult, illegally because your parents brought you, and we're going to say, hey, we're going to deport you back to your country, especially when if you were 2, this is your country. What are you going to do if you get sent back to Mexico after being here from age 2 to 19? I mean, it's crazy. We say it is morally wrong to do that. It is contradictory to the values and principles of the United States. We're not going to do it. We're not calculating how will the media see it. What will Republicans say? No, it's just not the right thing to do. That analysis is missing from Trump because it's merely about what can I get away with? What will look good? What will get me votes? What will get me positive attention? There's nothing there. He is a completely hollow man. Follow us on social media. Interact with the David Pakman Show community. See exclusive content. See when we're taking calls live. And stay up to date on other big show announcements. We post daily. Find us on Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, and TikTok. All right, let's get to our typical Friday feedback. One day early. This whole week's a little bit upside down. You can email info@davidpakman.com. You can leave a TikTok reply, a YouTube comment, Twitter. We're not really spending too much time on Twitter, but occasionally something will make it in. Facebook comments, etc. All topics welcome. Criticism, praise, trolling, suggestions. Ideally, not so much hate. Vile anti-Semitic hate we try to not have on the show, but sometimes it unfortunately does make it on. Der Taran says, if Kamala can bait him so easily, can you imagine what Putin would do? Yeah, this comment really gets to the heart of something we saw and noticed during the debate against Kamala Harris for Donald Trump. He cannot really control himself. Now, we've had a psychiatrist on who said that Trump may have impulsivity issues because of ADHD. And some people took offense, but it's just an analysis. He may have impulsivity issues because of ADHD. Okay, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. It's not a value judgment. The point is, if it's not dealt with either through whatever, right? I mean, working with advisors to better understand how to be in public or medication or whatever. The point is, he can't control himself. Every bit of bait that Kamala Harris dropped, Trump took in the worst and most extreme way possible. Oh, you should go to one of his rallies. They're boring and people leave early. He flips out and starts calling her this, that, and the other thing and screamed through the rest of the debate. She brings up his felonies and his convictions and he's not really the guy of law and order. Flips out again and he cannot control himself even on the debate stage, knowing 70 million people are watching. Obviously, he's not up to the task of serious negotiations, particularly with, listen, Trump's not wrong when he says Putin is smart. He's right. Putin is smart. He's smarter than Trump. But his intentions are absolutely horrible in terms of what they mean for the United States. So it's right to be terrified of what it would be like to have Trump in those situations again, particularly another 5 years older and more deranged and dilapidated. I'm as scared as you are. Natasha Tomlinson wrote in and said, Green Party member here who left the Democrats years ago because of their ineptitude. You better believe I'm still voting for Harris Walls because Trump will absolutely ruin this country forever. Yeah, this is a reaction to the clips we played of Jill Stein just really saying very dumb things. I don't know how else to say it. I wish I could sugarcoat it. I'm glad to see that Natasha, although she identifies more with the Green Party, decided the Democratic Party is no longer for her, understands that now, 5.5 weeks from this election, it's a pretty binary choice. Jill Stein's not going to be president. I'm so sorry if I'm the one breaking that to you. She's not going to be president, nor is she qualified to be, I should mention. But Trump might be, or it'll be Kamala Harris. That's the choice. Act in accordance to who you believe is the better choice. That's what I'm doing in November. Bart CMH says about the Trump rally goers who leave early, which they do. I can understand why they leave early. What I don't get is why they go in the first place. You know, I asked this question on the Monday show after we looked at clips from Trump's rally in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I got a couple of different responses from people. Some wrote in and said the people go because they never actually watch Trump rallies on TV, so they assume it's going to be fun and interesting. Then they get there and it's not. Number two, some people leave early because they spend all day there. Trump's always an hour or two late. They're in direct sun, no sunscreen. They're burning. They're exhausted. They want to get away from the porta potties. So it's just like all they can take because they've been there all day and Trump doesn't even respect them enough to get there on time. That's number two. And number three is a lot of them are just there for the experience. They know the actual speech is not the most interesting thing to them. They want to go. They want to see the other Magapotamians and Magadonians that are there and meet Trumpists and buy the fried dough and the sausages or whatever they offer. And then, okay, the speech started. It's like, I'm kind of done. I'm going to leave now. I'm there for the tailgating less than I am for the game. 3 reasonable suggestions as to why the people who leave early from the Trump rallies go there at all. Let me know if any of those make sense to you. The Kingmaker wrote in and says, if it's the Jews' fault that Trump loses, Let me be the first to say thank you to the Jews. This is clever. This is all related to, it's almost beyond belief, but last week, Donald Trump was invited to speak before a Jewish group, about anti-Semitism. And Trump said anti-Semitic things during the speech. And anyway, one of the things that came up was Trump saying, the Jews should be supporting me. If I lose, I'm going to blame the Jews. How could this be? None of it makes sense, etc. And the Kingmaker says, I hope, I will praise the Jews if the Jews are what ultimately defeats Donald Trump. Okay, here's one that's a little bit whacked. This is, let me just read this one to you, and I'm going to try to do it. It's riddled with atrocious grammar and syntax, but I'll try. Okay, if little Johnny can identify as a girl and little Cindy can I identify as a man in the world must go with this, then I would like to identify as a multi-billionaire, even if I am somewhat poor. But the world must go with this, so I would like to go buy a new car and sign my name as Bill Gates, and they should allow it because I identify. Presented without comment, because I couldn't possibly add anything to that. But these people exist. They're allowed to vote. I plan to vote to cancel out one of their votes. Ms. Rotorwings wrote in and says Kamala's statements regarding crowd size and people being bored and leaving will stick with him every day for the rest of his life. Yeah, there was something that you could see really got under Trump's skin when Kamala Harris talked about the fact that people get bored at his rallies and they leave. And it has to do with the way Trump evaluates what's good. You know, it's ratings. The Apprentice was the #1 reality show. That sort of stuff. It's not about that I accomplished something good. It's did people like it? Did people recognize it? And we had that interesting clip this week of Trump saying, I think what I did on vaccines is great, but like I can't really brag about it. Essentially, these are my words, because his audience doesn't like the vaccines. And so for Trump, it's all about what do people cheer me on about? And Kamala Harris pointing out people leave his rallies really sent him for a loop. Richard weighed in on the debate and says it's just a debate, pukeman. It means nothing. When your opponent has the media in their pocket, wrong there. It doesn't matter. Well, listen, it remains to be seen how much the debate means. Conventional wisdom among folks like Alan Lichtman, who we had on earlier this week, is the debate doesn't matter. That's why he was ready to issue his prediction about Kamala Harris defeating Trump before the debate. He doesn't think the debate really changes the structure and the fundamentals of the election. On the other hand, conventional wisdom can be wise or it cannot be wise. And what we see in the polling is that Kamala Harris's national lead has doubled since the debate. Doubled. Now, you can still win the popular vote and lose the election electorally, but doubling your lead after the debate really isn't bad. Here is Jorge, who is upset with me. Jorge says, you need to see the doctor. Check your mental condition, comma. You judging person, their physical condition is not right. Don't judge, won't be judged. See a doctor, please. I don't really know what this is about, but I've made pretty uncontroversial observations like Donald Trump is the oldest major party nominee for president ever. That's a fact. That's not a medical assessment. I've also said 78-year-olds are statistically closer to the end of their lives than 59-year-olds. Kamala Harris being 59. Did she turn 60 recently? Maybe she did. I also pointed out Trump's obese. This is just a reality. Trump claims to weigh only 239 and be 6'3". That's the edge of obesity, if you believe it. Trump's obviously not 6'3". He obviously weighs more than 239. Trump's obese. So obesity isn't healthy. I'm not suggesting any kind of treatment, or I'm just observing what we know. Trump's obese and obesity isn't healthy. So I don't think I'm saying anything that would only be the purview of doctors. Like, you don't need a doctor to say 80-year-olds are closer to death on average than 60-year-olds. It's just what it is. I don't need a doctor to look in the history books and confirm, yes, Trump's the oldest major party nominee ever. These are just facts. And so you can say, I don't care about that. I would rather vote for the obese 80-year-old than the trim 60-year-old because I like his policy better on deporting immigrants. All right, go ahead and do it. But let's not pretend that reality isn't reality. That's my request. Folks, we are about to officially launch the pre-order campaign for my nonfiction book, The Echo Machine, which is forthcoming. I would be honored and humbled. I worked very hard on this thing. I would be honored and humbled if you pre-ordered the book. If you like reading physical books, we've got it. If you prefer a Kindle or ebook version, we've got it. If you want to listen to an audiobook, we've got it. I am the narrator of the book. All of these versions are available on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble, Audible, Apple audiobooks. You can go to davidpakman.com/echo, and every pre-order will qualify for a signed book plate. Just hold on to your receipt. I'll tell you when it's time to request the book plate. And on Monday, I'll update you in terms of where we are on pre-orders.